Here's my issue. I have a concern that this management and this front office thinks our only issues are these injuries to the bullpen. That they think when we get healthy, when these relievers come back, this team's going to be great. We're going to have a good bullpen again, like we did at the beginning. Neglecting the fact that we have a lot of guys who were hurt, who overperformed when they were healthy. Merriweather, how much do we know about him?
I used to joke around that I don't believe he's a real person because he was always hurt and we never saw him on the mound. Now we've seen he can hit triple digits and has a 79-mile-an-hour changeup. And, yeah, that looks like a fucking creative player from MLB The Show. Yes, I want that on my team. How many innings has he pitched at the big league level? He's probably had more IL stints than he's had innings pitched.
10 innings? Is that it? It's a very low number.
Right? Like, it's exactly. It's not a lot.
And same with Ryan Borucki.
I love Ryan Borucki. I love Ryan Borucki. He seems like a really great dude. His brother is hilarious on Twitter. He couldn't start because of the injury, so you put him in the bullpen, and you figured, okay, he's going to be in the bullpen. That's going to be easier on his arm. And then they're leaning on him as the multiple inning reliever, and then they're having him going back-to-back days. And, hey, Charlie broke him.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't want to necessarily blame Ryan Borucki. Maybe it's the manager that broke the pitcher. But there's a history there. And like Merriweather, like Theo says, you can't trust them.
And then
Phelps isn't coming back.
Yates is not coming back. Same. Right.
So, that's four guys that aren't coming. Two that aren't coming back, and two you don't know.
And then you look at this Hatch and Pearson situation where they're saying we're not putting in the bullpen. We know the rotation's good, but these guys are starters. We want to stretch them out. So you're basically telling the fan base, you're telling everyone, hopefully we win some games, but they're not. This isn't the year to win. That's what I got out of this.
I hope that's not the way they're looking at it, but it's starting to feel that way, and it's getting concerning because they need I want to couch this with it's June 13th. Not a lot of trades get made. That's very true. The Rays did make a trade. You know what? The Rays did get two relievers from the Brewers. The Rays also traded Willy Adames, who might be having a down year, but go look up his Fangraphs page and his former prospect ratings and all of that. Just go look at the show if you play video games. Really, Willy Adames is a pretty damn good and a pretty valuable player.
He's been great in Milwaukee.
Exactly. So that's why the Rays were able to make that trade. The Rays also have three prospects that are top prospects, including the top prospect in all of baseball, who's a shortstop in Wander Franco. So that's why the Rays can do Rays things. Okay? But Theo's talking about this. There needs to be a change of expectations. And at first we talked about, well, this could be fun. You know what I mean? It could be a fun team. And I joked around that it was going to feel like 2015, but before they made all the trades. And it feels a lot like 2015 before they made all the trades because there's offense and then there's defensively a mistake. And then there's offense and then the pitching falls apart. And then there's offense, right? But there's there are consistent issues that feel like 2015 again because you look at this team and you look at the offense that they have and the potential there, and then you see it fall short. Like, how many games has a bullpen lost this team? How many? Like, they were talking about it in the broadcast in one-run games where the Red Sox were like 17-10 and the Jays were 10-17, right? Like, some of that is all of the injuries. Some of that is Charlie. But Jeff Passan is like the number one reporter in baseball, and he's talking about how terrifying this team is, and they don't have George Springer yet if they can get some pitching.
And the annoying thing is, and I don't know, I can't remember the first half of 2015 as far as the rotation goes. Is this rotation performing better than that rotation was? Because it feels like a lot of these guys are really settling in.
With Ray and Ryu is better.
It has to be, right?
That's exactly. You have Ray and Ryu. You had Estrada, but you didn't have a lot of consistency.
Stroman was out.
Yeah.
So it feels
Sanchez win the ERA title that year? Was that
next year?
No, that was the next year. Sanchez was still coming out of the bullpen at times that year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, right, there were issues, but their offense was always there. And again, they had a great bullpen, and then they burnt the bullpen out. Yes. And then they had to go acquire bullpen arms.
And it is different because that team was at the end of the winning era. This is at the beginning. But it is worth considering that don't be upset now in July when you're like, where the fuck are these moves? We're right there. We're like in the same. The division's amazing this year. We're looking at this division. It's different than 2015, and I don't know if the team sees like that they have to make those kind of moves right now.
Well, they know that for sure.
I think they got to do something. Like, I hope you're not looking at this like, okay, well, Romano and Dolis and Meza, and that's fine. You know what I mean? Because
Dolis is not trusted. I'm out on Dolis being like he cannot be trusted.
Dolis did this, I think, about this long during last season, and then went on one of those streaks where he just didn't allow any base runners, basically. So I'm not completely out on Dolis, but when he doesn't have it, it is one of the most painful things to watch because it is ugly where he's bouncing balls. He's throwing pitches that are like 40 feet. They're not getting 60 feet, 6 inches. They're not even getting 50 feet, 6 inches. He's throwing 40-foot curveballs, and he doesn't even throw a curveball.
Someone on Twitter was like, at least when Dolis is upset, or you were upset at Dolis, he's just as upset at himself. Like,
that's
you see him just like,
he's not happy. It just, I don't know. They need bullpen arms. I've seen bullpen arms get acquired for not very much. They need help. This team needs help. And it can't be Patrick Murphy, God bless his soul. Nate Pearson can make a difference in a bullpen role. I believe that. Do you want him as a starter? Well, obviously, because he could throw 100 and he's one of the best pitching prospects in baseball. So, yeah, you want him as a starter, but it might make more sense out of the bullpen. And let's be honest, I love Thomas Hatch. He looked great last year. He doesn't have the prospect cachet of a Nate Pearson to even be involved in that conversation. If you need him as a bullpen arm, you need to put him in the bullpen right now. I talked about the fact that I wanted Stripling to come out of the bullpen and be used as multiple inning type of thing. Hatch, you've done in high leverage last year. You saw that it was good. Use him as what you're using Trent Thornton for. 2 innings.
Yeah, which was stupid, by the way. Like, you finally have a game where Chao can fuck it up a little bit and no one cares.
Right, or maybe the guy who's going to make his debut, you can let him make his debut in a fucking 14-run game. But no, you're going to throw Beasley back in there instead of, like, it just – Charlie does a lot of things that piss me off.
This is why if we were just like, let's say the Twins, we just sucked, and everyone's like, knew we sucked. We have so much going for us. When you have starting pitching that's getting you, like, in today's day, six innings of just good baseball and keeping you in every game, and an offense that's just scoring more than everybody, we shouldn't be having this conversation. We should be like talking about first place.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're going to be making those moves this year. It's going to be one of those years where we're about 83 to 85 wins, and we're like, but next year we got to make all those moves. So
there's only so much we can do right now. They're not going to trade the top prospects this year. They wouldn't do it last offseason. The last offseason would have been the time to make those splash moves.
Well, again, and you need relievers. You don't even need to trade the top prospects. What I want to see you take advantage of is the fact that Springer's not here yet, and here's the thing: I do not think Marcus Semien is going to be here past this year because he's going to be too expensive. I think there's a chance Robbie Ray, like we were talking about this as the game was happening. Yes, I would like Buck and Dan were talking about it. Dan talked about, Robbie Ray was the first free agent to sign. He signed a 1-year, $8 million deal because he wanted to be in Toronto. They had a plan with Pete Walker. Hey, maybe they're talking right now. And maybe you get back. And it was Buck that was the voice of reason being like, no, he's going to get a lot of money this offseason. And we were talking about it. We were texting during this game being like, Tony, it was me and you that were just like, yo, this is the Patrick Corbin, Zach Wheeler contract. That's what we're looking at. If this maintains what he's doing right now, these stats they maintain, how does he not get a 5 to 7 year contract where he's getting $150 million? He's durable. Like, even when he was bad, he pitched almost 200 innings. He's not 35, I believe. Here, let me pull up Robbie Ray. I think he's 29. I think we've had this conversation a few times. That's why I think he's 29. At the same time, he strikes guys out. He might be a lefty, but he's a lefty doing this in the American League East. He's 29 years old. He'll be 30 in October.
And we've had the toughest schedule in baseball so far.
Right? And oh, yeah, by the way, this is a lefty that has thrown 98 at times this season. Like, he throws 97. He sits around 95. This is not someone you're worried about. At this age, at 29, this is the Patrick Corbin. This is what you're looking at. Unless he decides to take a hometown discount, you're looking at two huge pieces in terms of what they're doing in the offense and in the pitching that just probably won't be here next year.
Which is a consideration, saying like, oh, well, we'll have this core next year, so let's just load next year. That is a good point. We might not have those two pieces who are complete, like maybe the two of the most important right now to what's happening with this team. So
and those guys, like I don't think they'll be here next year, and it's not because I don't want them, and it's not because I think either of them don't like Toronto. I think Robbie Ray is more than happy to be here.
They've never been to Toronto.
That's a good point, actually, Marcus. Robbie Ray,
he could hate it.
Yeah, that's true. But God bless Robbie Ray for wanting to be here. I don't think the amount of money they're going to offer him. You know what I mean? Like that he could get on the open market.
Look what the Yankees need. Look what the Yankees rotation. The Red Sox.
Why did you bring that up?
I'm just trying.
Don't even make me.
No, the Yankees are getting Story. They're splurging on him. They're not going to get a pitcher.
Oh, they're going to sign one of those shortstops. So I'm going to be sick. It is going to make me physically sick to see one of the shortstops sign with the Yankees.
Correa would fit right in on that team.
I hope Carlos Correa signs with like the Tigers or something and goes like signs with Hinch. And like all the young Tigers that are coming that aren't there now because the Tigers are atrocious, almost got no hit again. But also just because I don't want to think about Carlos Correa as a Yankee because that would be way too easily hateable. It'd be like the A-Rod thing all over again, where it's just like, oh, this thing and this thing, it's perfect because you can just hate them together.
I like the Tigers. Go to the Yankees. I already hate them. And I'll hate them.
That's why I bring up the Tigers thing. I'm on that train. I'm hoping that happens. That he leaves the Astros, signs with Hinch in Detroit.
Okay.
So if we had to put, I think I know your answer, but if you had to target a free agent, Ray, Semien, who are you targeting?
Oh, Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
No question.
We have our young guys. Hopefully we can plug them in. One of them.
Between Groshans, Martin, like there's a bunch now. Between all of those guys, hopefully one of them can fill the hole that Semien's going to leave. You know, like and Semien's been great. He's a potential Gold Glove, Silver Slugging second baseman.
He really he can't be doing any better, really.
Right, exactly. He's recreating the MVP. He's having the exact bounce back that everyone was hoping he would have while transitioning to a new position and playing it at an elite level. It's just like 2 complete home runs. Absolute home runs. And that's part of the reason that we need to talk about changing expectations, because maybe you're there a little sooner than you thought. Like Mark Shapiro liked to talk a lot about how this was a team that lost 94 games 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Like that's true. They did. But if they're here, give them a chance. And I'm not saying trade Jordan Groshans for Josh Hader. You know, I'm not saying trade Austin Martin for a rental starting pitcher. But bullpen arms aren't generally the most expensive things. Are you going to get the elite of the elite? Are you going to get a 25-year-old controllable dude that throws 100 like the Rays got? Well, you're not trading Willy Adames because we just talked about that. Those aren't the type of guys we're talking about. But can you get a guy who's good for one season? Yes, you can. And you can trade a Kevin Smith or another random prospect. Like, look at all the dudes they traded when they got Story and Hawkins and Brant and Lowe and all of those guys they got. Did any of those guys really turn into anything?
Story.
Did I say Story?
Yeah.
I didn't say too low.
Should have been Story.
I was remembering a certain call into Jays talking about how the Jays should have traded Troy Tulowitzki for Trevor Story. That's what I'm remembering.
They should have seen that coming, obviously.
You said Story. I'm like, was there a reliever named Story? I was like,
no. I confused him with Tulo. But think about it. Like, think about all the guys. Like Jeff Hoffman was the big name. You know who the best guy in that might be?
That boy.
Yeah.
And he had like
Norris, maybe.
A good year and a half out of Matt Boyd over that period of time.
Yeah, he had one good season, and I think he's having he might be getting blown up now because the Tigers suck this year. But exactly, like none of those guys. If you told me right now that all those guys would be where they are right now, I would be obviously do it again. It's not even close. It doesn't even matter. Really?
Yeah, prospects are as much as we know about prospects now, we think we know everything. There's still lottery tickets. We saw Kelnick this year. He's been horrible. They sent him back down. Like, we don't really know for sure. I know circumstances were a bit different with no minor league year last year and all of that, but still, they are lottery tickets.
You need to get an arm. You need to call teams that are completely out of it, that have these veteran guys that are outperforming what they normally can do, and just go it's a flyer.
You know
Go
what
bring them in.
this season could be? Not 2014. Remember 2014 when everyone was pissed we did nothing at the deadline?
Oh, yeah.
And this team felt like they were playoff ready?
Yeah.
That's kind of maybe that's what this team is.
That was the weird Zombie Jays thing where they went on like 2 different what was it like? Did they go on 2 different 7-game winning? I know it was the next year where they went on like 14-game win streaks or whatever, and they did make the playoffs. But they went on these weird win streaks and they were not good enough. And then Munenori Kawasaki would hit a home run in a game and walk it off, and you'd be like, "Oh my God, they might make the playoffs." I think that was 14. I feel like that was that season.
You are right, and even if this isn't an all-in, they owe it to this offense. They owe it to like Lucy Flat after games. They're so invested in this. They're doing so well. And they're like, we're not winning games though. Like you owe it to them to at least have a competitive bullpen where you can say, all right, we're not really going all in, but we're doing enough where you will have a chance every night.
Exactly. Like this offense is giving this team a chance to win every single night. So make the bullpen give them a chance. Just again, I'm not asking for Josh Hader. I'm not asking to trade all of the, as Wilner says, the fine meats and cheeses. But go get some guys that can actually throw a fucking strike. Okay? Chatwood didn't work out. And hey, Phelps was working nice, and then he's not coming back. And Kirby Yates, he seemed like he could be great. We were all for that signing, and it just didn't work out. But you can't be placing the hopes.
And they're good at identifying that. Like I know with
exactly.
Bauer, had a few good hits, and I'll give Shatkins that credit. So
they know what guys to look for, so go get them. There should be guys available. Go find them. Go acquire them.
They always are.
Right, and then if they fall apart, then it's the learning thing, right? Then it's something internal, and then it's a young team that needs to get better, and you can learn from that. But right now, we're staring at what looks like a potential playoff team that has a problem, and a problem that can be fixed. So,
and it would be easier if the division stunk, but the fact that we're looking at like the Rays just keep winning, which is
it's
just
the American League East. This division is never going to suck.
Yeah, and I think that's what they got to get used to, and just say, you know what, we got to just make a couple. I don't think they should trade everybody, but just make a couple moves where it's like, we're going to try a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah, the bullpen move's definitely doable. Call up the Diamondbacks, the Pirates, all those bad teams.
Exactly. Teams that are bad, that have veteran relievers that are not coming back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they need to get something for them.
Exactly.
Like when the Jays would get Daniel Hudson and trade him to a World Series winner in the Nats. Like, those guys exist. Go get those guys. That's what this team needs. So
we got a month and a half till the deadline. So
you got time, but don't waste it. Just please, for the love of God, because again, we keep bringing this up. You can't pin your hopes on Merriweather and Hatch and Barucki, and because we don't know what these guys are. We don't. They're hurt more often than not, and when they're healthy, hey, they have been really good, and they've been really good at the big league level. But they've also you can't trust them at this point. So go try to get more arms.